Well, here we are with part 2 of the Cougar rescue. Got the motor all busted down and I'm in the process of cleaning stuff. I got new flex plate, new water pump, gasket set, remain, water pump, all that stuff. Just going to go with some pt2 black paint. Or when ordering parts, I got bearings and a milling oil pump, brass freeze plugs. When I went to order rings for this, I ran into an interesting situation. Since this is a true 85 GT Mustang motor, it really is kind of rare because it was a kind of a 1 year only deal, kind of like how the 86 Mustang GT motors were, that were 5 speeds. This was the first year for forged pistons, but they had they were TRW made. They have no dish like the E7 and up heads have, so they're a flat top with just the valve reliefs, but they are forged. But they came with a really odd ring package, so I don't know if you weren't really paying attention to what you had, you could really make a serious mistake with these, because when you look at rebuild kits, they pretty much skip 1985, and I see why now. For this being like a transitional year, after 85, they went to a metric rings where they had a 1.5 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter, and a 4 millimeter oil ring. Which, when we measure these at my engine builder's shop, the oil ring is a 4 millimeter, but the compression rings are actually 16th, which in millimeters is like 1.65. So the ring grooves are way too wide for a 1.5 millimeter ring. They would just they'd probably wobble around in there and break. So you couldn't use those. And we could not find a rebuild kit anywhere. I was on the phone with Summit for 45 minutes trying to come up with a mixed ring package that would include that. Well, with no success with Summit, I called Total Seal, and within 30 seconds they knew exactly what I was talking about. And it's not actually a 4 millimeter oil ring, it's a 5/32, which is the same as a 4 millimeter. But it isn't a readily available ring package that you can just call up Summit or Jegs and order, so I had to order right from them with a 5/32 oil ring and a 16th and 16th compression rings. The top one being a Molly, second one just being a regular cast. So I have those coming. They were a little more pricey than what normal rings would have cost me, but you know, if I'm using these pistons, it is what it is. The nice thing is, if I decide to use E7 heads down the road on this, it'll actually bump the compression up about 3/4 of a point, because the E7 heads have a 60 cc chamber and these E5s have a 67. So this motor is only going to be 9.1 to 1. So I could potential upgrade later with just a simple E7 swap. I could bump the compression up, make it a little more peppy. But we got some more parts here. ARP dry shaft, the milling pump, standard volume for this one, brass freeze plugs, and I just did a garage degrease and clean on the block here. Just soaked it in some foaming degreaser and scrub brushed the hell out of it inside and out, blew everything out, and I did a 420 grit bottle brush hone on the cylinders, and they cleaned up really good. Even the two that had some surface rust in them from sitting for God knows how long cleaned up real good. So we got some good bores to go with here. Nothing I'm worried about. So the block is all good to go. I'm gonna tape it up, hit it with some rust encapsulator Eastwood paint today, and with any luck, my engine builder will call with the crankshaft done. We're doing a polish and a chamfer on the crank, so I can basically get the bottom end together. I won't have the rings probably till end of the week, so I can get no pistons in it, but I can get the timing set on, cam, lifters. I can get all that stuff in it ahead of time, which would be nice. Get everything painted up and get the front end on it, the timing cover, water pump. Pistons can pretty much go in last. So yeah, that's all ready to go today, day 2. Did a little bit of work up here, trying to throw some of the air conditioning stuff back in, finding stuff in the trunk for the car, brackets and bolts and whatnot, rerouting the wire harness, trying to clean that stuff up. Blew everything off, all the grass clippings and spider webs. So there we go. We're moving right along on this, so stay tuned. The motor's all sealed up, and we got a couple good thick coats of some Eastwood rust encapsulator paint. Should turn out pretty good. This is what I use. Stuff will definitely provide a good barrier for any of that rust that was still on the block. So looking pretty good. Get some plugs and paint on it next. And here's the bottom end, all done. Crankshaft checked out real good, well within spec, so standard bearings in it. She's all torqued down, 95 foot-pounds. Brass freeze plugs are all in. Got the double roller timing chain on, nice and tight. So she is all good to go. As soon as I get the rings in from Total Seal here in a couple days, and slap the pistons in, and then the oil pump and pan. Moving right along. Man, just got the heads back from machine shop, all ready to go. Just gotta hose them down a little bit and I hit them with some fresh paint. Ended up they were warped pretty bad. Took 17 thousandths off of them to get them straight. Valves all relapped in, everything's good. Valves are good, guides are good. Bought a kit from Alex Parts for his, this is basically the valve spring kit they sell for the GT40P heads, since these had the rotators on them. These springs came in at 127 pounds installed height, and the ones that came out were 69, 70, so yeah, quite a bit better. So we got a fresh valve train here, everything's good to go. I picked up some new the inserts for the back of the head where that air injection thing was in the back, so I'll plug those off with the factory inserts. So they're all good to go. Got the intake all cleaned up, 192 degree thermostat. Injectors I had cleaned and flowed a while ago, so those are all done, basically rebuilt, ready to go. Just got to slap the fuel rail on there. And I did get the rings from Total Seal, file fits, so that'll be probably take me a good day to get all the rings and get the short block assembled now, so I'm gonna work on that tomorrow. So here we go, head's done. Oh, and I got basically $300 to my machinist to do all the work, labor and everything, and was it 150 bucks for the springs, seals, and get them shipped here from Alex. So yeah, you know, $450 to get the heads all rebuilt. I think it's good money spent. And while we're on the subject of intakes, here's the upper intake, powder coated by my buddy at Bill's Powder Coating. I eliminated, there'll be no EGR on this. I have the plug-in simulator for the harness, and this right here, this little 1-inch spacer basically is just going to eliminate EGR, and it accepts the throttle bracket to bolt to it. So it'll clean it up, no more hot coolant flowing through the EGR spacer. Everything will be blocked off at the head, between the lower intake and the head. That'll all get plugged off. So no EGR on this. And here's a little mock-up. Intake's not bolted down, valve cover's not yet. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. Color's really close to the rest of the car. Get all the brackets on there. I think it's gonna look all right. So hopefully the next video you'll see it in the car and wired.